We haven't seen this kind of meteoric rise and tragic fall since Bol and Bubble Jamal Murray. Stick around to find out more. Let's data dive. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Data Dive powered by Market Movers. My name is Tyler Nethercott, better known as Teapot, and Brock Purdy investors, I'm sorry. I tried to tell you. Many of you have DM'd me on Instagram asking my opinions about Brock Purdy. Last week on Cards on the Table over on our Sports Card Investor channel, I said that injuries are a huge risk and that I'm not a believer in the Purdy hype. And this week, tragedy. Something you frankly never want to see. Brock Purdy injured his elbow early in Sunday's conference championship game. He needs surgery and he's expected to miss at least 6 months. And now his prices will surely plummet. It was already unclear whether or not Purdy would even still have the starting job next year with Trey Lance in the mix, Jimmy Garoppolo. There were rumors about Tom Brady potentially going to the Niners. But this injury will definitely not bode well for those who went all in on Purdy. So today, I want to chronicle this tragic tale with the data, as well as the price history and trajectory of Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, and one other important comparison, so make sure you stay until the end. As always, this video is brought to you by Market Movers with thousands upon thousands of football cards from all eras. Visit marketmoversapp.com and use promo code DIVE to get your first 7 days free. Now let's get into the data. Okay, so right off the bat, let's look at Brock Purdy. Let's look at what's been going on, the journey of Brock Purdy's prices, going back to, let's say, the beginning of January here. I'm on January 2nd of 2023, so start of the new year, and up over the last 30 days until today. And what a ride it has been. Brock Purdy, obviously a Cinderella story, the last pick in the draft, the Iowa State quarterback, on nobody's radar, and comes in as the third string quarterback and plays extremely, extremely well, especially in terms of efficiency, not turning the ball over, gutsy late fourth quarter drives. And here's his price journey. So we've got, there weren't a lot of cards for Purdy. There really weren't a lot of cards. Initially, it was like his Elite and his Chronicles draft card. So we're looking at this. Here we've got his Mosaic base card, which came out obviously not too long ago. This card started out kind of flat, and then you see the price movements up. And then all of a sudden we get here to mid-January, the playoff hype, the belief in Brock Purdy. He's putting together a string of games, and you see his prices start to go up, 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 up. And then all of a sudden, interestingly, I think because the Eagles were favorites, favored by most people to win the playoff game, you did start to see some price movement down even before Sunday's game. So people suddenly losing confidence. And here we are on the 28th, which was Saturday. Price is still kind of, holding steady. And then you see this big drop on his raw Elite base rookie, numbered to 999. And the prices just start to come down. Now, interesting to see this one bounce back up to $135 the next day. You never know. Sometimes those things are chill bid, manipulated. We take a lot of effort to remove those from Market Movers. But because it was in line with the chart graph, we do leave it in and let you make that decision. But now we're starting to see the slide coming down. So over the last 30 days, take a look at Brock Purdy card prices. Down 65, 64%, 16% on his Mosaic Green, 48% on his Chronicles draft picks raw, and then his base Elite actually up 100%. Interestingly, I'd expect to see that one start coming down too, but it came out early at a lower price point. That was actually the first one, not the Mosaic here that we saw in this black line. So overall, if we take a look at Purdy's cards in our database, over the last 7 days specifically, you can see the only one that seems to be up, and again, some of this can be kind of fluky, only a handful of sales in this card, is the red certified, and then you just see the prices coming down, 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 significantly down 65% on his base Mosaic raw. Probably a lot of people realizing that now to send that to PSA and to get it graded, there's not going to be a lot of buyers for that coming back. People are going to flood the market, liquidate all their Brock Purdy cards. Not a great thing if you bought into the Purdy card. Now there is an extreme example, and I'm sure there are many of these. There was a Brock Purdy, I think RPA, an early released one. I couldn't even tell you what set, I don't remember exactly, but it sold for an amount of money that was astronomical. It was more than any Ben Roethlisberger card has ever sold for. Saw the story over on Find Your Trove on Instagram, so he'll have the full details if you want to go check that out. And then a more anecdotal story, at Culture Collision this last weekend, Ephus Pitch on Instagram was standing at a booth, and he heard somebody trading a Dan Marino rookie card plus cash for a Brock Purdy card. Now that is the ultimate swap, I guess you could say. Interesting because I don't know how the person came to acquire the Marino. I don't know if that was like a PC card for them. I don't know what the thought process was. Obviously, we don't have any of that information. But if that person was thinking, I think Brock Purdy's going up and the Marino is going to hold steady, I can flip and buy back into the Marino, I have no idea. But obviously that person is probably not feeling too great right now. So that's Brock Purdy. This is tragic. Injuries in football, I talk about it all the time, are really a big problem. Even a guy right now like Patrick Mahomes, who I'm personally the highest on out of all of the current athletes in the NFL, if he had a devastating injury, it could be really problematic. Obviously, Tom Brady had that season that he missed. I don't remember if it was his ACL or what he tore, but he was out for a full season back when Matt Castle filled in for him and got all the hype. He came back strong. Remains to be seen what can happen with Brock Purdy. For me, and I said it last week in our video, I was watching him. He seemed accurate. He seemed fairly decisive, but he also has a lot of weapons, and he wasn't really putting the ball down the field. The big knock on him was the arm strength, and it did seem like the ball just didn't quite have the zip that a lot of other NFL quarterbacks have. So, Brock Purdy, I'm sorry. I hope that you come back strong. It was an awesome story. Niners fans, I'm also really sorry, and especially to Brock Purdy, flippers and investors, I'm very, very sorry for your loss. Switching over, Joe Burrow, another guy probably making a lot more people sad this weekend. It seemed like everybody at Culture Collision was saying Bengals, Bengals, Bengals. Bengals are going to beat the Chiefs. Joe Burrow owns Patrick Mahomes. Joe Burrow owns the Chiefs. Burrowhead Stadium. There was the question around the ankle. That was the big question mark I had, or I would have felt very confident going into Sunday, but I was worried about the ankle. Then suddenly Travis Kelce was questionable with a back problem. It wasn't looking good for the Chiefs, and yet they still pulled it out. And so I want to take a look at the price history for Joe Burrow going back to last year, post Super Bowl, all the way up until now. So the first chart that I've got here is Burrow starting just, basically at the Super Bowl, the little run up on Joe Burrow prices, and then down, 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 down. And you see pretty much flat into the summer. So I'm telling you this because this is really interesting, right? We're going to have Jalen Hurts and we're going to have Patrick Mahomes. And when Jalen Hurts loses to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I'd expect to see something similar to what we saw with Joe Burrow last year. So we saw the price run up, and then we saw them come down about 35%. It was actually right by the end of February that the cards, they didn't hit their low point, but they hit the point where you might want to start buying, especially by the time you got into, let's say, mid-April. That's when things kind of mostly stabilized. So if I scroll down, you see the price changes. He was down somewhere between 40 to 55% on these flagship kind of rookie cards, his hollow, his base. And as a reminder, why do we use PSA on these charts? Because they build a really nice trend. The sales volume and the pop counts are there to be able to generate a trend line and show insights. You don't always get that with some of the other grading companies, even though we love them as well. So switching over to the next chart, this is starting at that same date. Here we've got, I'm starting at 7/24, and I'm kind of coming all the way into mid-NFL season, and we actually saw more slide. So you say, wait a minute, Teapot, you said to buy then. This, I think, has everything to do with what you think the hype is going to be before the season on a player. You could have bought in. You can try to buy at the low point, but if you're really high on, let's say, Jalen Hurts, I would sell the cards now, potentially, if you think there's a risk that they're going to lose. Even if you win, we're going to look at what's happened historically to Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. But in this case, Burrow actually just continued to go down. Now, the Bengals didn't start out particularly hot. They kind of rebounded mid to late season, and they went on a nice run, and Burrow started playing really, really well. But kind of coming down here, you saw even more slide. Again, from the start of the season, he was down another 47% to 58%, so another massive slide. Now, the market overall, especially ultra modern, kind of did this as a whole. So some of this has to do with what do you think about the ultra modern sports card market overall in the next year, and how optimistic or bearish are you on the market. And then if we switch over, this is where it gets interesting, right? About mid-season, and Jeff has actually brought this up several times on other videos that he's done and on our Cards on the Table episodes, that buying these quarterbacks that make the playoffs tends to see a run up on their card prices. And as it became more clear that the Bengals were playoff bound, you saw these kind of prices go up, 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 all the way until the 29th of January, at which point his prices were up 87%, 87%, 127%, 146%. So if I go back here to the last 365 days, actually let me just change this date and we'll switch. I'm gonna go back to January and we'll see what kind of happened over that time frame. The prices here, you had this huge run up and then they kind of stabilized. He only just now got back to where he was. So people were really banking on Joe Burrow. Now, again, considering that the market was down significantly over this time frame, to have Joe Burrow come back to flat is actually market agnostic growth. It's him outperforming the market during this time frame, as many other cards saw decreases. Let's look at the last few days, and we're starting to see that trajectory downward, where cards are starting to move down. Some of these, this is obviously only a few days, but we're already seeing the slides on the different sales down 5%, 8%, 29%, 10%. Interesting here because historically the Prism Silvers have held more steady than these other cards have, but it's possible that they got hyped up a little bit too much beforehand. But one thing is for certain, if you were banking on Joe Burrow to win that game and to go on and potentially win the Super Bowl, well, that didn't happen, and now people are wondering about his card prices. But I think the competition, the rivalry in the AFC between him and Mahomes, and throw Josh Allen into that mix, is going to be strong for years to come. So that's kind of what's been going on with Joe Burrow prices. Now let's jump over to Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts is the guy who's been outperforming everybody this year. His prices have been going to the moon. Everybody's been very enthusiastic about him. This is really interesting because right during the National, Jalen Hurts was the #1 guy whose name I kept hearing at every booth. Do you have any Jalen Hurts? Do you have any Jalen Hurts? Jalen Hurts is going to go up. He's going to play great this season. Some people had some inside information, or it was local Philly fans in Atlantic City. But we saw some stability here, and then he did start to play well. There was this big run up. The prices kind of came down on several of these cards, and then it was sort of vacillating up and down, up and down. And it's only until recently that we really see these starting to take off as he's approaching the Super Bowl. So if we look at his prices overall, since back in the beginning of August, he's up 79%, 26%, 84%, 77% on these key cards. Jalen Hurts prices are going up. So you say, what's the best and worst case scenario here? Best case wins the Super Bowl. Worst case, he loses the Super Bowl and plays terribly. Let's look at what happened a few years ago when Patrick Mahomes won his first Super Bowl. And he's playing, you see the prices, there was this run up right before, during the playoffs, and then he wins the Super Bowl in here, and his prices actually did continue to go up. We're talking about a young guy who was breaking all kinds of records, who's winning MVPs, and who, then wins a Super Bowl very early in his career. All the hype was behind Mahomes. This is also at a time when the market as a whole was going up. It had a lot of positive momentum. It wasn't quite the boom period. It was, about 6 months before that the market really started to blow up during that 6-month window at the end of 2020, early 2021. But his prices did go up after he won the Super Bowl. So what about the next year when Mahomes was back and lost to Tom Brady, and Tom Brady goes to Tampa and wins another Super Bowl, really cementing his place in history as probably the greatest of all time? Brady, flat on this card, down 10%, down 12%. That actually really surprises me to see these prices. This is right after the Super Bowl, and his cards actually still went down. Mahomes, who lost the Super Bowl, went down even more. He went down 21%, 27%, 29%. There was a lot of money baked into his prices. They were very high. There was a lot of expectation, and they did kind of get humiliated by the Bucs in that game, but their prices came down. Now, this was interesting because this is sort of as the market started to come down. It was really April, May of that year that things started to kind of, really take a downturn. So that might have had an impact on it. It's hard to say. There's all these kind of independent factors over the last few years. But if I'm going back and I'm looking at Jalen Hurts, I'm asking myself, what's the possible upside? Well, we've got Mahomes here, and his prices were kind of at, like, let's say 1.35K. This card actually went down. This actually went down a little bit, the Donruss base card. Some of these others did go up. So if you're looking at this point at his other ones, they went up a little bit. I'd still be selling. Right now, personally, if I'm holding Jalen Hurts cards, I would still be selling because there's no sure thing here. His cards are up. Sell them now. Even if they go up another 10, 20% if he wins a Super Bowl, they're going to come back down over the summer. It's just the natural ebbs and flows of in-season, off-season, post-season, all of these things. I'd be selling. The last comparison worth looking at in the midst of all these young quarterbacks is to take a look at some of the all-time greats who have played during the last era, some of the greatest from the last era. While all the eyes are on the young guys and we're seeing this huge regime change, you've got Tom Brady announcing his retirement again. You've got uncertainty around Aaron Rodgers. Is he coming back? Is he still going to be with the Packers? You've got Matthew Stafford, who did win a Super Bowl, was all the rage last year, had a horrible season this year. Matt Ryan also, end of his career, and Russell Wilson, who had the worst season, arguably, of all of them, kind of much to my surprise in many ways. These guys are all down, so I'm looking going back to the beginning of the NFL season up until now. Brady's down 8%, Rodgers down 17%, Stafford down 39%, Matt Ryan down 53%, and Russell Wilson down 61% on these kind of flagship PSA 10 cards. You've got Sean Payton headed to Denver. Can he turn things around? Can he get Russell Wilson, get his head right, get everything right with Russell Wilson? Russell Wilson's the guy I was the most wrong about in football over the last, let's say, 18 months. There was a point when his cards had come down so much, even while the market was doing okay, that I thought this guy's a buy. I picked up a couple of his Topps rookie cards live while I was recording a video. That did not work out very well, and I'm willing to admit when I make mistakes. Maybe now's the time, if you still believe in Wilson, to have any kind of a bounce back. He's had a fantastic career. $45 for a PSA 10 Topps base card, of which there's less than 3,000. Doesn't seem like a terrible deal, but I'm not telling you what to do. You do your own research and let me know what you think down in the comments. So tell me, did you buy into the Purdy hype? Are you a believer in Mahomes, Burrow, Hurts? Who do you like going forward in the NFL? Let me know your thoughts as always down in the comments. And again, if you want to get this data, visit marketmoversapp.com and use promo code DIVE to get the first 7 days free. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, happy investing, keep on collecting, and make sure to have fun.